Gear Tasting Radio is brought to you by Imminent Threat Solutions. ITS provides knowledge that empowers individuals with indispensable skill sets to explore their world and prevail against all threats. www.itstactical.com or www.imminentthreatsolutions.com. All right, welcome to Gear Tasting Radio, where we offer an in-depth look into the usage and philosophy behind the equipment in our lives. I'm joined by Rob.
Hello.
And myself, Bryan. And our guest today is Jason from GORUCK. Jason McCarthy has been running GORUCK for the better part of, what would you say, 6-7 years now?
Well, I would say exactly since 2008.
You would be the one that would know that number.
Yeah. What would you say if I had to ask you,
You
how
were
long
estimating.
you've been running your business?
Were you in the room with me, I would ask you this question.
Yeah, so kind of let everyone know a little bit about your background and kind of how you came to be with GORUCK.
Yeah, so basically it started with my time in the military. You know, I enlisted after 9/11 because of 9/11 and eventually made it through the Special Forces qualification course and earned my Green Beret in 2006. And then got to go to Iraq and Afghanistan, then I got to go to Iraq and Africa and Europe. I wanted to go to Afghanistan, so there's the slip in that.
Yeah.
But you know, it was a trial by fire in a lot of stuff. From, you know, I know we're talking about packs and stuff today. It was trial by fire of gear. It was trial by fire by people. It was a mindset, and ultimately I just got to hang out with some of the best people you could ever hope to meet. So
Yeah.
it was really just the honor of a lifetime.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I mean, since the topic here is looking into the philosophy and usage behind equipment, what we really wanted to focus on today was packs, and since you guys started a company surrounding rucking as a whole, I thought it'd be great to kind of get your perspective and insight into packs as a whole and kind of how you see them and their, I guess, ubiquity in many different disciplines of how they're used.
So, I mean, by definition, you're carrying weight on your shoulders and your back, which is, you know, by definition stronger than carrying it with your biceps. You know, the Roman army really got good at this when they had to transport troops and their stuff to go fight, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's hard to fight if you've got all your stuff in your biceps that you probably need to fight, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, over time, the packs got better. They got more load dispersing around different parts of your body that were stronger. And what there's been over time is there's been sort of a fork in the road between the military style carry and the civilian style hiking carry, right? So civilian hiking will tell you that all the weight should be in a hip belt around your waist, right? Because your glute and your hips and stuff are your strongest muscles. The military, you don't have that luxury because you have all sorts of stuff around your waist, like, you know, ammunition and stuff that you need that's going to save your life. So the military does the shoulder only carry. Now, somewhere in the middle there, the styles also became very, very different. You've got the tactical military, and you've got this sort of, you know, magenta, fuchsia, lime green with straps everywhere hiking packs, right?
The Dora the Explorer pack.
Exactly. Yeah. And so in the middle of all of that is where, you know, GORUCK sort of was born, was this idea of taking the best of the military stuff that's tough. You know, I mean, by definition, it has to survive war. And that's the harshest environment you could ever ask to put either a person or gear through. And then it also has to perform. And, you know, as I started GORUCK, I was transitioning out of the military. So that was a difficult and awkward time, probably the most awkward and the most vulnerable time of my life. And I wanted to, one day I wanted to pretend like I was still in the military, and the next I wanted to completely run away from it because, you know, it was just very, very awkward. And I think a lot of people have gone through that. That's why the transition is so hard. And so I wanted us to do something that was comfortable in both environments. I kind of wanted to have my cake and eat it too. So I wanted something that could play aesthetic and function-wise in the civilian world. And then I wanted to have that same pack still be tough and able to go into war and to perform. And so that was the genesis of the philosophy of why, you know, GORUCK and GR1 specifically was invented.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah, that's a good story. I don't think I've heard that quite described like that before. And I've been a huge GORUCK fan for a long time now. I did class 50 way back when. And to be honest with you, I tell people the only reason I really did it was to do the ascent. So, anyway.
Yeah, and if you search GORUCK Challenge, somehow your blog post is still on the first page of it or something.
That's awesome.
You've got your Google foo your powers are strong, my friend.
I know what I'm doing on the web. Yeah. No, but I mean, that's kind of how I kind of came upon you guys too, is I really liked the balance between the civilian world and the military. And as someone that got out of the military myself, it was neat to find that kind of group and community doing that kind of thing outside of that wasn't so full military focus. Because there's a lot of things like that. You can go get your ass kicked for 3 days on a military inspired
it's not sustainable,
training. Right?
So out of just because probably a lot of people don't know the sort of transition,
sure.
Eventually we wanted to build the bag in America, right? Because American jobs and quality and all that stuff. Well, we went down that rabbit hole and did it. We eventually had a whole bunch of bags, rucks, if you will, sitting in my bedroom in Washington D.C. when I was going to grad school. And lo and behold, when you charge $295 for a rucksack, they don't care if it's made in America. It's too expensive, right? So nobody buys it. So the world's silence was the answer. That was their vote, and their vote was not a good one for our survivability. So came up with an event that was also based on this philosophy of building a bridge between the military and the civilian worlds, which was a bridge I was trying to personally cross as well. In my transition, and that became the GORUCK Challenge. And so, a special forces guy, it was just me at the beginning, shows up and builds a team out of the people that show up for this experience. And, it happens, you need the rucks to do the event. It makes it more challenging that way and stuff. So that's sort of veered us toward the people side of the world, which is a lot more interesting than just the gear side.
Sure. Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, and that's kind of, to look at backpacks and what kind of exists in the market space today, I feel like the pack still, to this day, does a great job bridging that gap, like you're saying, too. I am more of a hip carry kind of guy when it comes to packs, but when I travel, that's what I use. I use a GR1. It's become one of the best packs for me personally to just travel with, and I don't wear a waist belt when I travel, so... and I know it's perfectly capable of, performing climbing 14ers because I did it in that. So it's like I respect the pack from that point of view, and I know what my limitations and capabilities are with that pack. So, it's
if you're going to go climb K2, go get a pack to do that. But,
sure.
We're not playing in that market. It's
right.
It's kind of like, look, it's a tough bag, and the toughest part about the bag is the person wearing it.
Yeah, good point. I like that. Yeah, so in terms of kind of what I think people's interest would where it would lie with this kind of content and this podcast is, I'd like to talk about kind of options, with your bag specifically, how they fill that space in the market, and what kind of uses do you generally see out of those kind of bags? I know I talked about travel with them, but
yeah, we've got this amazing mixture of people, which is sort of, at least philosophically, was the intent, was to take people of all walks of life, cities, mountains, jungles, whatever, and build something that could suit a lot of different lifestyles. And so, we get a lot of people that come in and they say, oh, I'm going to do the GORUCK Challenge. I probably want to have the best thing for that, which not coincidentally does happen to be our ruck. I know, because we don't force people to use our rucks in our events, and if there were a better one, they would do it, because you're trying to decrease your amount of pain that you're going through over 12, 24, 48 hours. So that said, my heart lies with our events, because it lies with the people who show up for our events. I love getting out there and seeing the folks, right? But also, like everyone else, I see stuff pass through social media, and I see a lot of, day-to-day activities of people commuting through subways. I see people traveling the world. I see it's always, I get proud when I see people and they go do something awesome with their gear, and they take a picture of their gear wherever they were, or they get someone to take a picture of them in the picture, because it sort of was part of the adventure. And that's sort of the goal. Like, if you want one of 400 bags that's going to sit in your closet and you're never going to use it, go buy something else.
How'd you know I had 400 bags?
I don't know, because I just walked through that room.
I have a lot.
Well, you got a lot of adventure. You've got to, you got to have options.
So many adventures.
Well, we were talking about that a while back of like having everybody has, kind of like a section of their home devoted to their pack collection. But I think more often than not, like you said, that it's kind of like you upgraded or you switched your focus, and so you're not using the one as much. I don't find myself rotating as much.
True. Well, of course I review stuff on a regular basis, but when if I purchase something, it would be for a specific reason. Like, for instance, I still roll back to the old school Alice pack for, like, that's what I used during that sniper challenge, but that's only because I needed to carry a gun. Mm-hmm. It wasn't because I couldn't fit everything in a regular pack or my GR1. It was that I didn't come up with a solution that was solid enough running a GR1 to carry my my long rifle. So it just kind of depends on the situation,
Yeah. So when you guys, how do you decide to make a new size? I see a lot of different options and stuff, and I know that everybody talks about different sizes of packs, and I think everybody kind of recommends a 3-day pack, but I find that the 3-day pack definition varies so widely.
Yeah, it does. I mean, so when you look at and you say, hey, how do I ideally want something to fit? Mm-hmm. Let's assume that you're doing a shoulder carry, okay? Because you have to question your assumptions.
Sure.
So you're not climbing K2 and you don't need a big giant waist belt. So that means that you want the pack to be higher on your shoulders and back because those muscles are stronger than, say, your lower back, right? The lower the pack goes, the more it's going to flop around. You're going to be bebopping before too long. It's going to smoke the wrong parts of you. And just like that's how you get tweaked and injured and stuff. And you don't want to get tweaked and you don't want to get injured. So you want the friction, because by definition also, a ruck on your back will create friction. Friction creates blisters. Blisters are uncomfortable or hot spots or whatever that is. So the big area that I found and have found over the years that creates a lot of potential friction is if you have a lot of weight in a pack and then it's rubbing against your belt area because it's kind of a bump and changes and stuff. Like that's where you'll always find something. So the belt test is kind of what I show people for our events or for if they want to go put 20 or 30 pounds in their back and go for a ruck. Then it's like you want the bottom of the pack, specifically where the weight is or where most of the friction is, to be above your belt.
Okay.
And so in sort of looking at sizing, I mean, I love a company like Apple that comes out with one thing and says, buy this, right? I mean, that's the dream. Like, here's the iPhone. Well, even they have gotten into more colors and a couple sizes. And, there's always this push for more because in our society, it's something new to talk about. And so new to talk about means you can send a newsletter out about it and you can, tell your PR people, if you're whomever, that they need to talk about it too. And so that creates its own ripple effect that creates sales. For us, so we try to keep as few SKUs as possible.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there has been a push to say this doesn't quite fit because it's too long or it's too big.
Gotcha.
Right? So GR1 has 2 sizes. They're 2 inches different, but that makes a 5-liter difference in terms of the pack. So, it's like a part of me wants to just say, just buy the one. It's fine. But I've seen enough people who are, 5'8", 5'9", and they would do better with the smaller one. So there's not a whole lot of, floors full of McKinsey analysts or anything telling us exactly how many sizes we should have.
Yeah.
And, more sizes means fewer colors and stuff like that because you can only buy so much. So there's not a ton of science. It just turns into fit. Really?
Well, and that's what I like to hear that it's the fit and not necessarily like we made it this size because we thought it was cool or, that we thought, oh, we need a small one just because other people have that. So I think that's kind of cool.
No, I mean, look, I don't really know the outdoor industry that well. I studied military packs and I didn't want, so I studied military packs because I was forced to, right? Or you could say paid to, but I'll say forced to, right? And then the hiking packs, I just, I spent more time in cities when I got out and I just never wanted to wear them. Yeah. I just always felt a little bit weird or something. So I kind of based it more off of the 3-day assault packs that I had in the military, but I wanted to make them a little bit more urban, sleeker, right? I mean, simple is always kind of the right answer, right? It doesn't go out of style. Like Cyndi Lauper haircuts, they're out of style, right? JFK, not out of style still.
Yeah.
Like just classic.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good philosophy. I like that.
Yeah.
So to go back kind of briefly to pack size and things like that, what's roughly 3-day pack size? What are the liters on something like that?
So GR1, there's 2 sizes. It's a 21 liter and a 26 liter.
Okay.
I mean, I guess that's like, we don't call it a 3-day assault pack or something like that. I mean, so we kind of take the philosophy of what that is, and we sort of take a lot of the features and the primary fabric, 1000D Cordura, and a lot of the really tough and rugged, techniques to stitch it well, and we just kind of shy away from the 3-day assault pack sort of language, but at the same time, it's founded by that.
Yeah,
like that's what I knew, and so that's what we built it out of. So for us, it's kind of like, oh, you're going to go on a 3-day trip, cool. Like this is going to work. So I'm here in Dallas, and then I'm in San Antonio tomorrow for the Green Beret Foundation stuff, and I've got my GR1. That's it.
Yeah.
And I have a giant camera with another giant lens on it. So, I've got room to spare.
Yeah. Nice. Well, awesome. And that's what I kind of look at when, it comes to pack selection too, is what am I taking? How long am I be gone? I was just trying to think of, common questions that people would ask themselves when they,
we got another one. It's 40 liters, and I've lived out of that one for like a really long time.
Is that the GR2?
Yeah, the GR2. Yeah. I mean, and it's like, you can either carry everything or you can find a laundromat.
Yeah.
Or if you're minimalist, like sinks work too. A laundromat is nothing more than soap and
it's a fancy
soap
sink.
And water. Yeah, it's a fancy sink. It does a little more work for you. But if you have the right kind of clothes that are easier to wash as opposed to harder, and it's not, freezing outside or something, then it gets pretty easy, right?
Yeah.
Well, that brings up a good point too of like, what is 3 days worth of clothing? I mean, it depends on what you're talking about,
True.
So 3 days worth of clothing to some people might not be changing at all. So
yeah,
it just depends on what you're carrying.
If you don't need ammunition, you need a lot less space, which is cool.
Nice. I think one of my favorite things from the ascent that I did when you guys had that first one was
that we did. I was there.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Don't forget.
What did I say?
No, you're like, yeah. When you guys had this thing, it's like, I climbed the mountain with you. We talked for like 2 hours on the way down. Yeah, that was good.
Great. What I was gonna say is one of my favorite parts is that you kind of put out the packing list, and then everybody showed up with gypsy camps and all kinds of shit, and you said, oh, by the way, it's got to be this weight. And everyone went, oh my God, what? And everyone was pulling shit out of their packs. And yeah, that was a fun time. Just watching the amount of stuff that came out of people's packs that was inconsequential to climbing a mountain.
Yeah, you don't need it.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I've seen people go do a GORUCK challenge, and they'll bring 5 pounds of trail mix, or like an entire slab of, I don't know, Rice Krispie treats or something. It's like, what if I get hungry? It's like, your body doesn't need this.
Yeah.
Millions of years of evolution.
Yeah.
Your body's going to be just fine.
Yeah. You can go 3 days without food. Have you heard that one?
We all do that. It's the Special Forces curse, like the more room that you have, other than the Special Forces curse is you're going to have all daughters, right? The other Special Forces curse is the more room you have in your pack, the more stuff you're going to fit in it. So it's great. You've got this super lightweight. It's so awesome. You talk to the guy at REI for like 2 hours about how lightweight it is, and yet it's got all this room. And so you go home and you're going on this adventure, and it's going to be awesome. And do you know how much 100 pounds of the most lightweight stuff on the planet weighs?
100 pounds.
Boom. That's what I'm talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
It's
true.
like, you don't need all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, I agree with that too, and that's a great philosophy to live by too. And just because you have the space doesn't mean you need to fill it. And yeah, that's good.
Well, that's why I think it's like, what size pack should I get? It's like the smallest that you can manage.
Right.
It's because, like you said, you will overpack if you have the room, and then all of a sudden, oh, this is heavy.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I mean, do you
all
need
that crap.
4 pairs of shoes, or do you need
Right.
2? I mean,
Yeah.
if you have big considerations like tents and stuff like that, you're getting a little bit there is some real space needs, but I mean, most of the time, like, what are you doing? You're going from a plane to a hotel or a plane to a friend's house, or, you know, do you need 2 sweatshirts?
Right.
Like,
Well, I don't know which one I'm going to wear.
Yeah.
Well, and I like the fact that you guys marry that with the events, because that kind of shows people what the weight will do to you. Because we get a lot of people that they have the bug out bag that has everything in the kitchen sink in it, and it weighs 65 pounds, and yet they've never carried it. It sits in the car, or it sits at the house, and they're going to strap it up and head into the brush.
Yeah, so it's like, hey,
apocalypse.
real world scenario. It's end of days, and you know, all the gas is gone. The grid is out.
Yeah.
You know, and you have to ruck for your life.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. All you have is this stuff on your back. Now, I hope if it's 65 pounds that you've been training a lot, so that you're really comfortable with it. I can tell you, I ruck a lot. 65 pounds is a lot.
Yep. Right.
To consistently ruck over a period of time, it will smoke you.
Oh, yeah.
And so, you know, I mean, yeah, you don't need quite as much stuff. Like, bring 2 tourniquets. That's a good 2 or more, right? But you don't need 25 pounds of food.
After the apocalypse, there will just be trails of like Rice Krispies treats and stuff that people have ditched out of their packs.
That's what I want to see.
Yes.
Like, that's what I want to photograph.
What's all the stuff that
after the
people
world
throw?
ends? Like, what did people leave behind? Like, that would be make a great coffee table book.
Would.
Full tubes of toothpaste.
Would.
I should have got that mini size.
Yep.
Well, you know, and that comes back to the other thing, too. You know, you talked about, I think we were talking about this earlier, not on the podcast or anything, but you were talking about, you know, weight of the pack itself versus the lightweight thing from REI or whatever you grab. And it's like, well, I don't want that pack because it's 2 pounds more than this one.
Yeah,
like,
I love that.
Why don't you just...
Why don't you just get tougher?
Yeah, why don't you get tougher, exercise more, drop those 2 pounds?
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah, so
you know,
it's probably
like,
the same person that goes to, you know, some LA fitness or whatever and wants to sit on a treadmill staring at a screen feeling like that's a productive life. It's not, right? Like,
this treadmill has a headphone input, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's sort of trying to be comfortable sometimes in the wrong areas.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that, too. And
sometimes it's okay to be uncomfortable.
well, you know, I caught a lot of, you know, I go back to the Mammoth Sniper Challenge thing because I just did it and we just did a lot of write-up from it, but I caught a lot of crap for using Alice pack because they're like, man, there's so many packs that are lighter than that out there. I was like, yeah, but I know this pack. I've used this pack. I know that I can ruck with it for 3 days. Yeah. So, you know, that's why I went with it.
It's like,
I would rather...
You know all her moves, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. Alice is a fickle beast.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was... I mean, that's really what I wanted to highlight on here is just kind of talking about the philosophy of why or what someone should look at when they're actually choosing a pack. You know, I think that those are important questions to answer when you're talking about weight or you're talking about size or space in a pack or what should I buy. You know, I think all those things should come into play. So.
What you want to do, but really when you go and pick it out, one of the things that we spend a ton of time on is the shoulder straps. And the reason why is because, yes, you can add a hip belt to our packs via Molly, right? But 99% of the people, 99% of the time, they do a shoulder carry. So that means that, you know, for 99% of the time with a GR1 or whatever, it's going to be on your shoulders. And that's the same for most packs that you're going to use out there. So if you go somewhere and you put it on and it's got no weight in it, it's a completely different feeling than once you've put weight in it.
Sure.
And so people, they get ours and they say, oh, this is really stiff, you know? It's like, yeah, it is. It's kind of like, I don't know, your favorite pair of blue jeans or something. You got to break it in just a little bit. But from the comfort standpoint, really nice shoulder pads make they make a real difference.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's ways to chintz on it. You can buy cheap foam, and we do 2 different kinds of foam, and we laminate them together. One's a little bit harder. It allows it to keep its shape. One's a little bit softer. It allows it to feel a little bit better next to your shoulders. But, you know, a lot of thought goes into that from a lot of different places. The difference maybe with us is that our philosophy is that people are going to be carrying weight right on their back. And
which is an important consideration for packs.
Yeah.
I would think so.
Carrying weight.
Yeah, I would think so.
Got to carry my Rice Krispie treats.
Well, and it's interesting too because, you know, like you were talking about this this ultralight pack is going to save 2.5 pounds or whatever, but it's also, you have to look at the materials between. It's not like they're the exact same construction
Correct.
and materials, and then they have a 2.5 pound difference. So, those ultralight packs, let's say you have something in there that maybe punctures the bag, and then maybe you're in a situation to where a puncture is not a good thing to have at that time. So, materials is another thing to consider.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, like the only way we could really make it tougher is if we made it out of steel,
Yeah.
And, like that's prohibitively heavy. So we said, no, we don't feel good about saying just carry your steel bag. Look, I mean, I think there's something out there for everyone. Obviously, you can go to any place and you'll see a trillion different bags that are just staring back at you. I mean, buy what you need, and hopefully you can use that same pack for a lot of different things. Because what we see from our people is that, there's still some people that want to buy one thing for everything that they do, but we're seeing less and less of that. People, especially the generation behind ours, they, it's an environmental thing. It's sort of a philosophical thing as well to do a little bit more with less, to have more experiences and fewer things.
Yep.
And I think that we play pretty well to that.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. What would you recommend to people that, we talked briefly about training with weight and getting into shape to carry a pack if something happened? Like, what would you recommend to those people to kind of get into, training in that regard?
Yeah, so what we found over the years is that people wanted to train for the GORUCK Challenge, which is an extreme event. It's led by a decorated combat veteran of special operations. It's a lot more than just rucking. And the definition of rucking is just you're going for a walk with a weighted pack, right? And so how much weight determines the amount of difficulty. So over the years, we've found people said, well, hey, I want to train for this. Well, back in the day, we said, drink a beer, go for a run, and don't worry about it. Like, it's going to suck no matter what, right?
Yeah.
But over time, we kind of said, well, that's not exactly that wasn't my mindset when I was in the Special Forces qualification course. I woke up every day feeling like they were going to just magically show up and say, you're not good enough, you got to go home, right? I lived in a sort of a state of fear because some of my instructors were the guys that were the first invasion in Afghanistan. You have a lot to live up to in a community like that, or anything in special operations, or anything in the military, right? There's always someone that came behind you, and you owe them your best. And so my mindset was, how do I do the most to get the most ready for whatever it is that I can control? And what I could control was my fitness and my training. So I got into rucking a lot. And I also did it with an Alice pack back then because that's what all the training was. And so, the standard in the Special Forces qualification course was 45 pounds dry, so water didn't count, and there was long movements over various terrain. That's about what I do now, but I don't do it to that distance. That's the max weight that I'll do now. So my pack will weigh about 50 pounds. If you want to start rucking, here's the reasons why you would want to do it. Because rucking is two things. It's cardio and it's strength. So we call it active resistance training. The active part is cardio. It's good for your heart. The resistance part is the strength gains that you get from carrying the load, both on your shoulders and your back and on your lower body while you walk, right? And together that's training, and it's a mindset training as well to get out there and do it. So it's a lot less impact on your knee than running, because the gait determines the impact on your knee. So it's more akin to walking. Let's say 2 to 3 times your body weight. Running is, say, 7 to 12 times your body weight per step. Right? That's a lot. They call it runner's knee for a reason. So, the more that you weigh, the harder and the worse, in a lot of ways, running is for you. So rucking as an entry-level fitness thing, at an entry-level weight rather, is a good way to sort of feel a sense of accomplishment if you go out and exercise, right? Because walking, like, I don't know, if I'm going to go for a walk, it's kind of not enough, you know? But I want to show progress. And the progress can be the weight that's in your pack. So if you start with 20 pounds and you go for a ruck, see how it does. You'll probably be sore in some new and different places, and that's kind of let you know you did something right. And then advance it, a little bit at a time. Say no more than 10 pounds at a time, say per week or something. But and again, I've done a lot of rucking, and I don't go over 50 pounds. So you can get a really smoker of a session with that.
I agree with that too. When I was at the the sniper challenge thing, like I didn't go over 40. Like that was with a gun, so it's like
Yeah, when everyone in the military says rucking sucks, and yeah, I remember a lot of rucking that sucks. Like 120 pounds in my Robin Sage infill and rucking that for 18 hours, that was really, really bad, right? Like excruciating. It compresses your spine. Every step you're questioning all of your life decisions that brought you to that point, and it's crippling.
Yeah.
And so you don't get to that point. That's a really extreme thing that, but ammunition is...
Which breaks a lot of guys in the service too.
It does.
Yeah.
It does, so you get a lot of guys and they have injuries now in a lot of their joints and their back and this, because we also had to jump in with that. So you have to land with that. 120 pounds, dangling between my legs, right? Jumping out of an airplane was, the jumping's not so bad as the landing.
Yeah.
I'll just say that. And so, yeah, it's really hard on the body. We're talking about something that's way reduced weight, that's a lot more sustainable, that is accessible, but it's still challenging.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Yeah. I think that rucking with weight is great. I love it. There's a nature center here that's local to us that I just love getting out and putting on a pack, throwing some weight in, and going. I use trekking poles, though, because I like them. So.
Yeah. They probably look really cool, too.
Yeah. Well,
like,
that's why
rule
I use
number
them.
one, always look cool.
Dude.
Right?
That raises my coolness
like
level by like
skiing on
10
the
points,
ground.
at least.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
It almost feels like I'm floating.
Yeah, you probably wear like a Vanilla Ice shirt or something
you
while
go.
you're at it or something.
Funny story. I shaved my eyebrow when I was little to look like Vanilla Ice. Yeah. And I went, wah, and I had to draw it in with an eyebrow
Oops.
pencil. It was horrible.
Yeah.
Nice.
Grab my mom's eyebrow pencil. Mom, I goofed up. I was trying to be like Vanilla Ice.
Good times. We all learn stupid stuff the hard way, don't we?
Yeah. Well, hey, everybody, thanks for listening to Gear Tasting Radio. I'd like to thank Jason again, Jason McCarthy from GORUCK, for joining us on this episode. Don't forget to subscribe and rate and review if you like what we're doing here. We'd love to hear your feedback. Every Tuesday, new Gear Tasting Radio, so be sure to tune in. And always use the pound tag Gear Tasting to throw your questions up, and one of these days we will
Someday.
do a question episode. Thanks for listening.